Finally, I'm Todd for G66. Welcome to another Tuesday tone tip. Today is all going to be about big tones from little amps. We're going to be focusing on amp models whose real-world equivalents lay in the sub 25 watt category. And what I want to do here is, rather than pair these with an authentic cabinet choice, I want to pair them with a 4x12 cab. I'm using a cab impulse that I actually made myself, LTTV Mix 7. This one is available on Axchange. I use the AxFX3 IR utility to capture my 4x12 Marshall cab with 25 watt greenbacks. There's a bit of the London plate reverb. We're going to start with the Supremo Trem, which is based on a Supro amp. Now, if you're like me and you absolutely love Led Zeppelin, you would know that the first couple of Led Zeppelin albums, those massive iconic guitar tones, were recorded with a small Supro combo. And all of these amps that we're going to talk about, while they may lack a little bit of finesse and a little bit of tightness in the low end that we might associate with a high gain, high wattage amplifier, they make up for in character. These amps are just so fun to play with, and rather than kind of tweaking the amp model itself, you can get lots of different tones by just finding the sweet spot on the amp. That's what we're really going to focus on today, finding the sweet spot for them and then using your guitar volume and tone controls and your playing articulation to get different tones out of them. It can be quite a liberating experience. Just push your chair back and do all the tweaking on your guitar, kind of old school, the way you would with a real world amplifier. That approach with the latest firmware 16 with the Cygnus amp modeling, I think works better than ever. So let's start with the Supremo Trem stock settings. I'm going to start on the bridge humbucker, then I will move over to one of the parallel modes. Let's check it out. Amazing, amazing. It's like the oldest trick in the book, but it feels so fresh and so novel every time you get to do it. Talking about the sweet spot, with this, one way I like to kind of set up all of these little amps is to maybe take my volume control to about 6 or 7 and my tone control to about 6 or 7. And then I would use the brightest mode on my guitar. In this case, it would be position number 2 on this guitar. And I'm just going to adjust the input drive and the tone to where this is nice and crunchy. That way, I've got room to back off my volume and my tone control, or increase my volume and my tone control to get more or less gain or more or less brightness. I can also swap over to darker positions on the pickup switch to get different variations in the overall tone. So let's have a listen to where this is. I'm going to tweak the input drive and the tone, like I said. So volume control is on about 7, tone's on about 7, position 2. That is my perfect jangly tone right there, but then I've got that extra gear when I crank up the volume and the tone control and I switch to the bridge humbucker there. I could, of course, combine this with some pedals. I really like a compressor with all these little amps, especially the JFET comp. So let's just hear that. I'll try to play something vaguely country-ish. something like that anyway. Again, on this same amp, bridge pickup, tone control up, volume up. I've got an amazing bass rock guitar tone on there as well. So that is the Supremo Trem, probably my favorite little amp in there. Another one that I've been playing around with is this Mr. Z MZ8. And let's just do the same thing straight up. Brightest pickup position, I'll start with the tone and the volume around 6 or 7, and I'll just get it to where it's nice and crunchy. What I've done to start off with, I will take the master volume to about the master volume to 10 and the level to -6. Let's just get this one dialed in using the same idea. So about 6 on my volume control. So it's getting a bit woofy and a bit kind of subby on the bridge pickup, but it's kind of perfect on that bright position. One thing that's cool with this amp would be to combine it with something like a boost. I really like, not the fuzz face, but the bender fuzz with this one. This one gets nasty really, really quickly. So I'm still on that brightest position there. And I really like the way this whole thing can either clean up or just get sickeningly, disgustingly fuzzy. So I'll just gradually bring my volume control up and then I'll add the fuzz. Again, character. It's all about character here. Let's try another little amp, and this is an amp that I actually gigged for a couple of years. The Citrus Terrier is based on an orange Tiny Terror. We've got controls for input drive, high cut, and master volume. I also owned and gigged a Dark Terror as well, so we'll try to approximate that in a second. But again, brightest pickup position, just volume and tone down a little bit, and we'll get it to where it's kind of crunchy. This amp has a really cool character. I love recording with the Tiny Terror as well. Again, absolute filth to sparkly goodness right there. To kind of emulate the Dark Terror, what I've found is adding the Precision Drive model up front as a boost with the drive down a little bit, and then engaging the 5-band Mark style graphic EQ, giving it a bit of a V. So let's hear each of those elements. I'll kick in the EQ, bridge pickup, controls all the way up. That's really, really fun. And I always like the Dark Terror for those kind of like Mastodon-inspired tones. So this could be a really good trick. You take the Citrus Terrier, take the Precision Drive, and you give it a bit of a view, a bit of a V on the EQ. All right, one last little amp model to go through, and this was a bit of a toss-up for me. I think these two amps, the Nuclear Tone is one I went for, but it's based on the Gibson Scout, which there is a model of. Scout is a great little amp if you like jazz tones, but the Nuclear Tone is pretty interesting. I just like, again, play around with the tone control to the point where it's not too bright, get enough drive from it, and then add stuff or subtract stuff with your guitar. So I think the tone on this one defaults to about 5. So I'll put it back there. We'll start with the brightest position again. With all of these little amps as well, I love adding a tiny little bit of trem. You actually don't need a trem block to do it. You can go to the power amp and you can go to, is it the power amp? No, the power supply. Add a little bit of the tremolo depth. Maybe bring the frequency down a bit. Check this out. And this little amp, I think, works great with the kind of amp in a box drive model. So you could have that as your clean tone, and you could pick something like the Heart Pedal 11 based on the Love pedal. So let's hear this one. Again, so much character, so much kind of individuality going on with all of these little amp models. There's quite a few other low wattage amp models. There is a great Fractal wiki which you can find online, which goes through all of the various amp models. Like I said at the start, while these amps may lack maybe the depth of kind of adjustment of some of the bigger amp models in there, or the more popular ones, what they lack in finesse, they make up for in character. And I could easily go and record with any of these, whether it's as a primary tone or as some extra kind of spice on top of an already established track, just to add some texture. I normally use these as extra little textures when I'm recording because, you know, they have those things that on their own might make you do the stank face, but in a mix, that's exactly what awesome guitar tones are all about. If you have any other questions, please let me know in the comments. Any other questions about these amps or other low-powered amp models to try in the Axe FX3, I would love to hear from all of you. Until next time, thanks for watching. I'll see you all next week for another Tuesday Tone Tip.